welcome to my channel, Afropean Monica. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So October is Black History Month in the UK, and the figure that I would like to highlight this month is Miss Louise Bennett Coverley. She was an artist, a folklorist, a writer, a performer. She's had such a huge impact on the UK, even though she was not British. In 1945, she was the first black student to attend the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA. Then she moved on to work with the BBC. She was presenting programs like Caribbean Carnival and West Indian Night, which introduced British audiences to Caribbean humor, culture, just the vibrancy of it. In 1960, I believe, she was awarded an MBE, Member of the Order of the British Empire. So this is how she is linked to the UK. On the global scale, one of the contributions that she has made to her country again, to the Caribbean culture, is spreading the love for patois. She helped to elevate the language from very much underappreciated to one that is now not only appreciated but also studied as part of linguistic and cultural studies internationally. Miss Lou dedicated her life to celebrating her culture, her country, her language, and that makes her fascinating to me. To have a second language is to have a second soul. What that means is that language isn't just a tool of communication, it is culture, it is identity, it is history. There is so much in a language. That is what really connected me to Miss Lou's legacy. I just love languages. But not just that, I love talking about culture as well, of course, and she's just such a fascinating figure. But let me tell you how I got to know about her first and foremost. I am not Jamaican. If you watch this channel, you already know that I am Polish and Nigerian, and I live in the UK. I also have a publishing business called Mixed Heritage Press, which helps people write and publish their stories. Last year, I was approached by Tanya Hernandez, who is a professional Miss Lou tribute performer. She approached me with her manuscript about the life of Miss Lou. I became the editor and publisher of her wonderful book, which now looks like this, Miss Lou, Voice of the Jamaican People. After I read the manuscript, I just fell in love with Tanya. I fell in love with the manuscript, with the way she writes. It's so vivid and so vibrant. But as I worked on the book, while editing and going through it over and over again, I fell in love with Miss Lou as well, because I was learning more and more about her. So that is exactly how I got to know about this Jamaican treasure. As I had already mentioned, she was a performer, but she was also a writer and a poet. And one of her most iconic creations, one that instantly drew my attention, is Colonization in Reverse. Colonization in Reverse is a poem. It's a historical poem. So Miss Lou came to the UK on a scholarship. She wasn't really part of the Windrush generation that came to help rebuild the country. However, Colonization in Reverse talks exactly about that journey. It talks about the Windrush generation, the wave that came to the country to help rebuild the country. They came after receiving an invitation from the motherland. Many Caribbeans at the time saw England as the motherland, and they just accepted the invitation to come and help rebuild the country, while I'm sure they were also happy to come and advance their lives alongside rebuilding the country after the war. In Colonization in Reverse, Miss Lou essentially flipped the colonial narrative, and this piece is a poetic reminder that history can be told from the perspective of those who had no voice before. I'm going to have Tanya present it to you. She's done it before in one of the other conversations. I want to invite you to hear it again as presented by Tanya in her native patois. This is not only a poem, it's a piece of history.
Actually, it's a paradox of colonial history, and you'll see why. I'll try and not only just read it, but recite it the way Jamaicans would normally do it. Colonization in Reverse by Louise Bennett Coverley. What a joyful news, Miss Matty. I feel like my heart going burst. Jamaica people colonizing England in reverse. By the hundreds, by the thousands, from country and from town, by the shiploads, by the plane loads, Jamaica people, England bound, them a pour out to Jamaica Everybody have a future plan to get a big time job and settle in the motherland. What a island, what a people, man and woman, old and young, just a pack them bag and baggage and turn history upside down. Some people don't like to travel, but to show them loyalty, them all opening up cheap fare to England agency. And week by week, them shipping off them countrymen like fire to immigrate and populate the seat of the empire. Hey! Oh no, see how life is funny? Oh no, see the turnabout? Jamaica lifted box bread out of English people mouth. Yes, and so when them catch England and start to play them different role, some people start to work and some people collect the dole. Jane said the dole not too bad because they're paying she £2 a week for seek a job that suit her dignity. Me say Jane will never ever get a job at the rate how she da look, cause all day long she sit on pan and fan couch and read love story book. What a devilment of England. Them fierce war and brave the worst. But I am wondering how them going stand colonizing in reverse. Ay, ay, ay.
I hope you enjoyed it. So again, a brief summary of what the poem was about, or rather who the Windrush generation were. The Windrush generation refers to Caribbean people who arrived in Britain between 1948 and 1971, named after the ship HMT Empire Windrush, which brought one of the first large groups from Jamaica. They came at Britain's invitation to fill labor shortages in transport, healthcare, and other industries, helping to rebuild the country after the war. So yes, that's what this poem is about. But these days, in the current political climate in the UK, you can't really talk about the Windrush generation without talking about the Windrush scandal, which happened many, many decades later. The Windrush scandal came to light in 2018. I already lived in the UK at the time, so I remember the conversations, I remember the outrage, the national outrage, where many long-term UK residents, mostly of Caribbean descent, were unlawfully detained, denied healthcare, jobs, even deported, despite having lived and worked in the country legally for decades. Not for months or years, for decades. So the scandal began with the government hostile environment created by the Home Office, designed to make it very difficult for the people who had no proper documentation, which was not needed at the time of their coming. They were considered part of the British Empire when they came. Apart from that, some of their documentation, like landing cards and stuff like that, was destroyed by the Home Office, had been destroyed by the Home Office. Those of the Windrush generation who had no ability to prove their status in the UK were just, after decades of living in the country, working in the country, building families and everything else, were sent away. Some of those people came as children on their parents' passports or on their parents' papers. They were not born in the UK, but all they knew was the UK. This was a huge scandal and something that has taken a very long time to fix. And as far as I know, it still has not been fixed fully. Some of the people who were affected died in exile despite having the right to live and work in this country. I was already in the UK. I was a resident in 2018. I've actually even attended a few events and conversations, but it didn't really touch me until now, truly. It just touched me in a different way. I think it's because of Miss Lou, understanding who the people were a lot more. Through that poem, Colonization in Reverse, the hope of that poem, the joy of, yes, we are coming to England to help it build, to build our lives alongside, building the country, and just, it's a new life, it's a new day. And then, so when she was writing that poem, she had no idea what was coming in 2018, of course, but now, looking back, we can compare, when you compare the two, the Colonization in Reverse, the joy of that poem, the hope of that poem, and then the scandal that happened many decades later, it just touches you a little bit differently. And I guess that's what happened to me. For me, Colonization in Reverse was a really strong piece of writing that really brought the drama of the scandal so much closer. But it's not just that, it's also what is currently happening in the UK. We have Nigel Farage with his party Reform UK. Of course, he's not in power, but it seems like he might be in power pretty soon. And, their proposal is to revoke permissions that had already been granted. We are talking about the Boris wave, right? They call it the Boris wave. Now everybody says that. So, meaning people who came to the UK after Brexit, non-EU citizens. I'm not an expert, but I know that the law does not work backwards. You are not supposed to retract something that had already been granted legally. As a country, you have given a promise to someone who's now building their life on your promise. Those people made decisions based on your promise, and now you just say, oh, well, I didn't really mean it, So anyway, I'm not going to go deep into that, but this situation, the proposal by Reform UK to remove the statuses that had already been granted to those people, echoes the Windrush scandal a little bit. It's like the UK is preparing for a similar thing. Of course, we are talking about non-EU citizens, so many people from Africa, from other countries as well, from other continents as well. I know Africa is not a country, sorry about that. From Africa as well as other places. While it doesn't seem like this proposal is racially motivated, of course, it will probably disproportionately affect Black people, brown people maybe, and all that. So yes, the current political climate in the UK, Colonization in Reverse, having learned about Miss Lou, made me want to talk about this today. I think this is a very relevant conversation. This Black History Month, I think, should be a celebration, but it should also be a call to remember, especially taking into account what is happening currently in the UK. Figures like Miss Lou remind the world how creativity and language can help reclaim dignity of a nation, while on the opposite end, the Windrush scandal reminds Britain of the price of forgetting. In closing, let me just say that you can buy Miss Lou, Voice of the Jamaican People, on Amazon and soon also at Barnes & Noble. This book has received quite a lot of international recognition, which is so exciting. I think you are going to enjoy it, just like I did. And you will learn a lot, just like I did. On this note, if you have a story to share, Mixed Heritage Press, we support storytellers like you. We specialize in nonfiction, including memoirs and heritage-driven stories. We do it because when culture is documented accurately, it doesn't just survive, it thrives. So yes, reach out at info@mixedheritagepress.com if you would like to publish a book with us potentially. I hope you enjoyed this Black History Month episode about Miss Lou and the Windrush generation. Please join the conversation. What do you think about what's currently happening in the UK? Also, if you know about Miss Lou, if you love her, know about her, just say something as well. Finally, please do subscribe. If you enjoy conversations like this, please do subscribe and like this video. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Enjoy your October.